Hello and welcome back. So in this video we will be talking about how to create your first React application in your local development server. And so in this video we will not be downloading Babel and React and everything separately. We will be using something called create React application, where we don't have to concentrate about configurations but just the React part, just the coding part. And so we will focus only on the coding part. So let's head over to Visual Studio Code, and here I've created a folder in my desktop. So you can create a folder. I've created a folder called React Apps. Alright, and there's nothing in this. This is an empty folder. So head over to Visual Studio Code and open the folder. I'm going to head over to desktop and React Apps, select folder. So once this is open, head over to terminal and new terminal. Here this has to be bash, so you can select your default shell as I showed earlier. You need to select bash and right over here. So when you open terminal, it opens in the folder that you have opened, like the open folder you opened React Apps, and it has opened in desktop React Apps. So here I want you to type these exact same letters. So npx, alright, so create space create hyphen React hyphen app and give it a space, and you can name it whatever you want, and I am going to name it as practice app. Practice app. And it is going to install the entire, all the configurations, all the files needed for us to just code, and we don't have to do anything with the configuration, and everything happens on its own. If you can see, it also installs React, React DOM, React scripts, and etc. A lot of things, so we don't have to do any of it, and it will install everything on its own. And I'm just going to raise this a little so that you can see how it's installing. It'll take some time, and let's head over after it's done. Okay, it might have taken some time, but I hope you can see a lot of things have been installed. So it's npx create React app, and you can name it whatever you want. I have named it practice app. Alright, so now that you're done, it says happy hacking and it gives you all these things, and so you have to go here. Alright, I'm going to say clear. I just want it to be so here I'm going to open the app that I created, and the app I created was practice app. So it's CD. You have to type it as CD and the name that you gave, that is practice app. That opens, and then you say npm start, and what this does is it opens your application in a local development server. So as you make the changes, you can see how the changes are made, so it makes it simple for you to understand, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So now after this has been compiled successfully, you can view your application which you just downloaded, which is running on your local server. That's local http localhost 3000. So you can either do that, you can click on this, or go down to Google Chrome, and here you can type localhost 3000, localhost colon 3000, and when you do that, your React application is running in your local server. So that is basically in the browser you can view it. that's your server. And here you can go back. So and here I can view all the files that I just used. So I am going to go to source and index.js. So here you can see most of the things here is I don't need, so you can do your basic cleanup each time you download your create React app. So I can remove this. I'm going to remove this as well, and I'm going to remove this. This is the index.js, the only thing. So I call this as a practice React because we'll be only practicing in this, and we won't be doing any kind of projects. For that, we'll download it in another folder and do it there. We can remove this as well, and this. So if you remember from the last video, in the introduction video where we did it on CodePen and it showed the display on CodePen, so here we're going to do it in your local server development, in your local development server, and I'm going to type open tag h1 and I call it as hello React, and I'll close the h1 and save it. So now the advantage of this is I don't have to go and reload Google Chrome each time I save it. There's automatic reload. So here it has already changed and it says hello React. So each time you make a change, it does it on its own. So head over and push this a little this way, and I'm going to minimize this as well. I hope you can see it. So I'm going to change it as hello world. Save it and it changes on its own. I don't have to keep reloading it. That's the advantage of this, and it's going to print it on its own. So now we'll head over to more core concepts about JSX, and we'll get a deeper dive into JSX. So instead of having static text, we are going to be able to put whatever we want into it. It can be from the user input or the database. So let's make some changes. Alright, so I'm going to go up here and say var test1 is equal to, I'm going to open a h1 tag and I'm going to call it as, you can put your name in it. I'm going to put it as John 2. Alright, and then let's say I want a paragraph, just a small paragraph tag. So I'm going to put P, and I'm going to say some info about me, and then I'm going to close this. So I'm going to change this as test1. So this will get rendered, so test1 gets rendered. So I'm going to put test1 here, and I don't want this here because it doesn't look nice. So I'm just going to copy Control C, and I'm going to name it as var test root is equal to document.getElementById, and then I'm just going to remove this here and name it as test root. It's the same thing but just a different way to put it. Alright, so the thing is, so you might be wondering where the root is here, and when we did last time in CodePen, I showed you where the root was. So you go to public and you go to index.html. You can go down here and you can remove these if you want, and they're a little annoying, so you can remove these. And here you see, and you have to remove only these comments, so be very careful. Don't change, don't make any other changes. If you do, the app is going to crash. So if you can see this is the entry point for your application. So this is where it gets changed, and this will be your entry point. So we will be making changes in the source index.js, not public index.html. We won't be making any changes here. Just leave it just like that. Don't touch it. So just go head over to source and index.js, and my text editor is actually showing an error. But what is the error? And let's save it. And it says showing me an error here. So let's head over to Google Chrome, and it's showing me here error as well. And it says parsing error. Adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Did you want a JSX fragment? So what does this mean? So this means that you should put it in a single enclosing tag. It can't be like this, and I want it to be like this, but it just can't. So I'm going to put it in an enclosing tag, and this enclosing tag is just a div. So it has to be under one single div, and it can't be in multiple things. So I'm going to open a div and then close the div here. So this must solve my problem. I think the text editor is showing that this is right, and I'm going to save it. And this is actually compiled successfully. Let's head over and see if yes. So I put the name there and some info about me. This is my h1 tag, and this is my paragraph tag. So that's about it. So I'm going to move this a bit like that so you can see it. Let me make some change here, like some info about me and exclamation. Save it, and you can see that those changes are made. So that was your first error, and that was a Babel error, and you have to put it in one enclosing tag. So we can have only a single root element. So this is a single root element. Alright, so let's make more changes. Let's add some ordered lists, and let's say OL, and then an li. It's basically lists, and I'm going to call it 1. Right. And another, so that's 2. I'm going to save it. You can do this as well. Save this over. That's alright. And so yeah, you got, so you can basically type those similar HTML codes. Not all tag elements are the same, but most of them are same, and we will be seeing all of those soon. Now so I want you to create another variable, and I want you to render it. So you can pause this video and do that, and you can see me doing it. So the solution for that will be right here. So I want you to take another, let's say test2, and do a similar thing and render test2. Alright, so go ahead, pause it, and do that. Okay, so variable test2 is equal to a div tag, and I'm going to put a name called John Doe again, because I'll be rendering this, it won't matter. Then I'm going to say age is 21. Let's put some location. The location can be New York, and what's his job? So you can call this as name if you want to, but that's alright. And that's about it. So let's render test2 and not test1. So head over to render and say test2 and save. So you can save using Control S, or you can go ahead, file, and save, and that's Control S. So you do that. Yeah, so the changes are made. So name is John Doe, his age is 21, location is New York, and job is he's a banker. So you can keep doing many, you can have many of those, and you can render whichever you want. So from this we can also reference a variable. So we will be focusing on test 2 and not test 1. You can either delete this, or I'm just going to control K and C. So that is control K and C. You can either delete these or you can comment it. So that's control plus K and C. You have to hold it all together. So it does it for you, or you can remove it, not a problem. So we will focus only on this, and what I want to do is, it is right now statically defined. So what does statically defined mean? So only if I come down here and make changes, it is going to change. But what if I want it to be dynamic? So what does that mean? So we can make JSX dynamic. So we are going to reference a variable instead. So that is basically taking that, it is to show that it can be changed from a database or from a user input. And so what I will do is, I'm going to give variable name is equal to John Doe. Alright, so I'll come down here, I'll open curly brackets and close curly brackets. So what goes inside what goes inside these brackets is known as JavaScript expressions. So we can put expressions in JavaScript, we can put objects, we can put even functions in JSX. So I'm going to open curly brackets and close curly brackets. So whatever I put inside this is JavaScript expressions. We can reference name, alright, the variable name which we define up above. So let's change his name, and we'll put this variable here in this JavaScript expression. So we'll put it as name and save it, and it works just fine. Now I'm going to change something here. So I'll call this as, change it to Rick, and Control S. It's going to change as Rick. So it is this JavaScript expression, and it is taking input from a variable. So this shows that it can be dynamic. It can be an input from a function or an object, or it can be an input as in from a database or an input from the user. But it can take, the JSX can take values from objects, expressions, and even functions. I can also call string methods here. So name dot to upper case, to uppercase brackets, and I'm going to save that, and it just becomes, so I can call string methods as well into JSX. We can also do some changes with numbers as well. So let's go over here and say variable person age is equal to, let's put something as 26, close it. I'm going to change the age, open brackets, close the brackets, and inside these brackets you say person age and save it. That changes to 26. If you can observe here, it changes to 26. Okay, so we spoke about strings, we spoke about numbers. So what about objects? I said earlier that we can put objects into our JSX. So let's take a value from the object and put it into our JSX. So we'll put all this data into an object. Alright, so go ahead and name your object as var user. So if you're wondering why we're using var, everybody has moved on to let and const. So I'm going to use var for this video alone, and after this in ES5, where I'll be teaching you the ES6, ES7 syntax, of I'll be teaching you let and const, and after I teach that we'll never be using var, and I'll also explain the disadvantage of var. So for now, var user is equal to, open the brackets, and let's put name. So we can remove, we don't have to, but okay. So name is, let's call him as Jason, comma, age is 22, comma, location is London, and job. These are all objects. So Banco. Okay, let him be officer. All right. So we have created our object, and we can go down here and change. We can call it from an object. Open the brackets, close the brackets, and so that's user. Save. Okay, I think the app has crashed. Alright, the app has crashed because we've just called user and not its properties, right? So its properties are name, age, location, job. So what is this? So user, to access that, sorry about that, to access that we are going to say user dot name. So user dot name, we're going to access name, so user dot name. Let's save this now and see the change has been made. His name is Jason, but this is coming from an object. It's user dot name. So let's make the change here as well. So his age is, go inside the brackets, user dot age, control S. You can see his age is changed to 22. It changes to London from the object. Open brackets, close the brackets. Inside the brackets, it's user dot location. Save London, and we'll similarly do that to job as well. User dot job, control S, and that has been changed to officer. So now we're taking inputs to the JSX from the object and not from a variable that we defined up above, but we're taking it from this. Alright, so now if you're wondering what these yellow things are, they're just warnings, so don't worry about it because we're not used these values. It is just showing us an error that we're not using this, but we've defined it because we've been using this. Alright, so don't worry about it. Now I want you to go ahead, take this entire thing from here to here and comment it, or take it out somewhere and save it, or you can remove it. So I'm going to comment it. So for your later reference, Control K C. Alright. Now let's use a function in JSX which takes data from an object. So I showed you how to define an object and use it in JSX. Now what if I want to take the data from an object? What if I want to take the data from the object and manipulate it and then use it in JSX? Is that possible? Is it possible to use functions in JSX? Of course it is, and let's go ahead and look at that. So here above, let's const. Now we can use const, or let's use variable now. Var user is equal to, I'm going to say first name colon, John is back, so John, and his second name is, so I'm creating objects, user is the object we're creating, and to Alright, so that's the first name and that's the second name. And now, okay, I want to take this and then I want to make some changes. I want to manipulate it. Alright, so I'm going to make a function, and we're using ES5 right now. I will also be teaching you how to use arrow functions, ES6, ES7, the new arrow functions. We'll just be using ES5 for now. So function, I'm calling the name of the function as format name, has to be in camel case, and input, the argument that I'm taking is user. So the argument is user, and I'm going to open and close the brackets. So here I'm going to say return. So a function always returns some values. That's the duty of the function. So return user. So how do I access first name of this object? So as I showed earlier, you have to use the dot this thing. So user dot first name plus, this is concatenation and I need a space, user dot second. Alright, and then let's just put a semicolon. So we have taken the values from the object and I've used the function to manipulate it. Now let's use it in a JSX. Let's go down right here and say const var element is equal to, now, so as I said earlier, we can, okay, I'll tell you about the brackets. So div, in this div I'm going to say h1, let's put first name. So I'm going to show you how to access objects as well as functions in JSX together in this. So I'm going to access the first name. If you can see the first name right here from users, so I'm going to use objects. So user, just like the last time, dot first name, close the curly brackets. Then I'm going to say h2. Actually call this h2 as well. I just want these to be smaller because they're coming from an object. h2 second name colon, open and close the brackets, user dot second name. So these two are coming from the object. Now let's put the full name, and this will be in a h1 tag, and it's called full name, or let's just call the function. Open and close the brackets. Alright, and we'll call the function, the name of the function is format name. So format name, and the argument is user, and that's it. So you have used the function and the objects, and you've used the function which has taken values from the object, manipulated it, and we put it in JSX. So you can just put one bracket here and close the bracket here. This is not really necessary, but it will just look cleaner. And you can semicolon, and because we've been calling this element, we'll have to render element in render with rendering test2. That is choose here. When you put it in comments, it's not useful for us anymore. So here we're going to render element, and if you don't make that change, your app is going to crash. So save this, and the changes have been made. So let's go and look at that. This is your first name John, second name Doe, and the function which put these together and return that value is John Doe with the space. So that's about it for this video, and I hope you learned a lot of things, and I will see you in the next one.